What happened when my family tried to humiliate me on Thanksgiving will shock you. Thanksgiving morning in Palm Beach should have been the perfect holiday escape. Instead, it became the moment I walked away from a family I had spent my whole life trying to please. With my reservation mysteriously forgotten and my sister's snide remarks on full display, I realized my family's glamorous facade was built on a lie. But what happened next? My grandfather's final decision shattered everything they knew about luxury. And trust me, you won't believe how they reacted. Thanksgiving morning arrived, and as I stirred awake in my Chicago apartment, a familiar tightness settled in my chest. Another year, another family reunion. This time, the destination was the Breakers, an opulent resort in Palm Beach, Florida. Our annual trip, entirely funded by my grandfather, was a tradition. I exhaled deeply as I did one final scan of my packed suitcase. My gaze drifted to the mirror where my own reflection stared back at me. My name is Julia Roberts. I'm 33 years old and work as a research director at a pharmaceutical firm, earning $160,000 annually. I live alone in Chicago and have carefully built my wealth through smart investments. While financial security matters, self-respect is even more valuable. My grandfather's voice echoed in my mind. A self-made man who built his fortune in construction, he instilled in me everything I know about managing money. Since childhood, he had eagerly taught me about investments and financial independence. In a family where few truly understood me, he was the one exception. On the other hand, there was my sister Sophia. Once a flight attendant, she now played the role of a full-time housewife, flaunting an extravagant lifestyle with her husband and their 7-year-old daughter. But behind the facade, it was our grandfather's financial backing that kept them afloat. Their hefty mortgage, car loans, and private school fees, he paid for it all. Yet, Sophia's social media painted a different picture. She filled it with snapshots of designer handbags, high-end restaurants, and lavish vacations, obsessed with maintaining an illusion of grandeur. My parents, Max and Evelyn, were no different. They appeared to be enjoying a comfortable retirement in Florida, but that too was propped up by grandfather's generosity. Their retirement savings, the deposit for their upscale senior community, none of it was truly theirs. Their favoritism had been evident for as long as I could remember. While I worked my way through college on scholarships and part-time jobs, my sister had everything handed to her: study abroad programs, living expenses, all paid for by her parents. That disparity still stung. Stand on your own 2 feet. That was another of grandfather's guiding principles. I took it to heart, dedicating myself to my studies and career, determined to build a life that didn't rely on anyone else. My apartment in Chicago, with its stunning skyline views, was a testament to my own hard work. I lived comfortably but within my means, just the way I wanted. As I hoisted my suitcase, an uneasy feeling crept over me. Thanksgiving always amplified the fractures in our family. My sister's obsession with appearances, my parents' clear favoritism, my grandfather's silent concern, it all played out the same way every year. In the back seat of the taxi en route to the airport, I thought about what awaited me. The Breakers was a 5-star hotel with an old-world Italian Renaissance charm, charging over $800 per night for its suites. The Thanksgiving dinner alone cost $200 per guest. But beneath the glittering exterior, our family's reality was anything but stable. My sister's showy lifestyle and my parents' comfortable existence were all sustained by my grandfather's wealth, a house of cards waiting to collapse. This year, I had a feeling that collapse was imminent. Everyone sensed it, yet no one dared to confront it. Through the window of the taxi from Palm Beach International Airport, I watched the Florida sunshine bathe the landscape in warmth. Stepping out at the Breakers, I pulled my navy Rimowa suitcase behind me, taking in the grandeur of the Italian Renaissance-inspired architecture. The weather was perfect, but my mood was anything but. I was the last to arrive. My long flight had left my simple yet sophisticated theory dress slightly crumpled. The lobby, a space of pristine elegance, stretched before me. Above, chandeliers glittered like stars. Below, polished marble floors carried the quiet footsteps of wealthy guests enjoying their holiday retreat. As I approached the front desk, I caught sight of my parents standing off to the side, engaged in what seemed to be a hushed discussion. My mother's dress looked brand new, perfectly suited for a resort setting. My father's casual attire reflected his age and the leisure of retirement. The moment our eyes met, they quickly turned away. "Ms. Roberts, I'm terribly sorry, but I can't seem to locate your reservation." The front desk agent's voice was polite yet uncertain. She scrolled through her screen, her expression growing increasingly perplexed. "Your family's reservations are all here, but yours." Before she could finish, The sharp click of expensive heels echoed through the lobby. I turned to see Sophia striding toward me, a smug smile playing on her lips. An Hermes Birkin swung from her arm, a Cartier watch gleaming at her wrist. "Oh, Roberts, you finally made it." Her voice dripped with false sweetness, each word laced with condescension. The front desk agent kept searching, glancing nervously between me and the screen. Nearby guests began to take notice. "How odd that there's no reservation," Sophia mused loudly, her voice carrying just enough to turn heads. Her Louis Vuitton suitcase stood in stark contrast to my understated navy one. Then, with deliberate ease, she leaned in closer. "Actually," she said, her smile widening, "I only booked rooms for the family." A beat of silence hung in the air. "One for me, my husband, and our daughter. Another for Mom and Dad. Just for the real family, you see." The words landed like a slap. The front desk agent hesitated, lost for words. My parents shifted even further away, their backs almost entirely turned. The atmosphere chilled in an instant. Taking a slow, steady breath, I met my sister's gaze, my expression unreadable. I nodded slightly and said, "I see. Then I'll leave." My voice was steadier than I expected. With a firm grip on my suitcase handle, I gave a polite nod to the front desk staff and pulled out my phone to call a taxi. "Wait!" Sophia's voice sharpened slightly, but I was already making my way toward the exit. The front desk staff cast me sympathetic glances, but my sister still wore her smug expression, even as she processed the unexpected turn of events. Our parents, meanwhile, stood frozen in awkward silence. My footsteps echoed across the pristine marble floor, the only sound cutting through the stillness of the lobby. Sunlight poured through the entrance, strikingly bright against the growing tension inside. Outside, a gentle breeze rustled the palm trees as I waited for my ride. The Thanksgiving trip I had prepared for had ended before it even began. Yet a strange feeling of relief settled over me. Grandfather's words echoed in my mind. Become someone who can stand on their own feet. In this moment, I understood them more than ever. I turned to take in the grandeur of the breakers one last time. Its Adam-style architecture, rich with over a century of history, stood as a symbol of wealth and status. Luxury cars arrived in a steady stream, delivering well-dressed families eager to indulge in the holiday festivities. Through the glass doors, I spotted my niece, Amy. She fidgeted behind her mother, the delicate fabric of her overpriced dress swishing as she searched for me. Every Thanksgiving, I brought her a gift. This year, a pearl hair clip sat wrapped in my suitcase, never to reach her hands. As the taxi pulled up, I climbed inside and gave the driver my destination, Palm Beach International Airport. My fingers tapped swiftly on my phone, searching for the next available flight to Chicago. Holiday airfare prices didn't faze me. The emotional toll of enduring this charade year after year had been far more costly. Through the rearview mirror, the breakers shrank into the distance, its gleaming facade a perfect metaphor for my family. Grand on the surface, crumbling beneath. And now the first crack had formed. There was no turning back. The taxi's interior was cool and quiet, a welcome escape from the tension. The soft leather seats absorbed the last remnants of my frustration as the scenery of Palm Beach rolled by. Lush palm trees lined the streets, white mansions glowed under the afternoon sun, and the Atlantic shimmered in the distance. Normally, I would have appreciated the beauty. Now it felt far away, irrelevant. Without hesitation, I called my grandfather. The dial tone stretched longer than usual before his steady voice came through. "Roberts? What's wrong?" "I just wanted to update you," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. I relayed everything that had happened at the hotel, how my reservation had been mysteriously omitted, Sophia's smug declaration, and my decision to leave. I stuck to the facts, leaving emotion out of it. On the other end, I could hear my grandfather's breathing shift, a slight hitch betraying his controlled anger. "I understand. I'll take care of this," he said, his voice low and deliberate. Those simple words carried a weight that hinted at the storm brewing ahead. Not long after I hung up, my phone exploded with incoming calls. Sophia's number flashed repeatedly, Over 10 missed calls in 15 minutes. Then came the messages. Roberts, Amy was looking forward to seeing you. Can't you think about a child's feelings for once? I was hosting a dinner with friends tonight. I plan to post the perfect family Thanksgiving on Instagram. Do you know how humiliating this is? Her texts escalated in desperation. Meanwhile, my parents joined in via email. We could have gotten you another room, but Sophia prioritized the real family. You're independent now, aren't you? If you can afford it, why not just book one yourself? Mom's email dripped with the same coldness she had always shown me. The next one included spiteful financial calculations. Sophia has a husband and child. You understand, don't you? Can't you just be considerate for one day? You've always been selfish, never thinking about the family. We had everything planned for social media, photos with you and Amy. Now it's all ruined. With each message, my chest tightened, but this was nothing new. The favoritism had been there all my life. As the taxi neared the airport, another wave of messages arrived. Because of your selfishness, Amy is crying. She had been so excited to see you. Sophia continued to wield her daughter like a shield. But beneath it, all I saw was pride and vanity. More emails poured in from my mother. Poor Sophia. If you knew how much she worries about Amy's future, you'd understand. Raising a child is expensive. But for the first time, I felt no need to respond. In fact, I was grateful. They had revealed themselves more clearly than ever. Just before reaching the airport, one final email arrived from grandfather. I'm proud of your decision. I understand everything. My vision blurred for a moment as unexpected warmth filled my chest. However, these weren't tears of sorrow, but rather a quiet resolve signaling the start of a new chapter. My phone continued buzzing with persistent calls. Frantic messages from Sophia demanding I pick up. Accusatory emails from our parents blaming me for tearing the family apart. But I had already reached a point where their voices no longer held any power over me. Stepping out of the taxi, I made my way toward the international terminal. As I booked my flight back to Chicago, an unfamiliar sense of freedom washed over me. I was no longer bound to the illusion of our so-called real family. About 30 minutes into the flight, a new email from grandfather appeared in my inbox, sent to all family members. This is my final decision, the message began, his usual firm tone evident. Today, on Thanksgiving, an incident occurred that gravely dishonored our family. The cruel treatment of Roberts is an affront to the Roberts name and will not be tolerated under any circumstances. Effective immediately, all financial support to Max, Evelyn, and Sophia is hereby frozen. I read on as he continued, his words cutting through the very foundation my family had built their lives on. Let me remind you, your lavish lifestyles exist solely due to my generosity. Those who have forsaken the true meaning of family in favor of vanity and appearances no longer qualify for such privilege. As I finished reading, my phone erupted with calls. Sophia's name flashed repeatedly, her panic evident in the sheer volume of missed calls. Roberts, please. You have to convince Grandpa. Her voice, now laced with desperation, filled my voicemail inbox. Reality was setting in. Her carefully constructed life was crumbling without the steady influx of grandfather's $30,000 monthly support. Emails from our parents followed suit, their former arrogance replaced by frantic pleas. Roberts, our retirement depends on this. Please talk to him, Mother begged. The luxury retirement home they had placed a $150,000 deposit on was suddenly at risk, their medical insurance subsidies about to vanish. Do something. He'll listen to you, won't he? In one email, Mother even attempted an apology, her words awkward and unfamiliar. I'm sorry for what I said earlier, but this is a family crisis. Please. I quietly powered off my phone. Outside the airplane window, an endless expanse of clouds stretched into the horizon. For the first time in years, the annual Perfect Family Thanksgiving posts wouldn't be making their way to social media. And for Sophia, that loss of image might sting even more than the financial fallout. The flight continued smoothly toward Chicago. The woman seated beside me scrolled through Thanksgiving dinner recipes on her phone, probably planning her evening. Normally, at this time, I would have been sitting in a five-star hotel lounge, giving Amy her present. When I landed and reconnected to Wi-Fi, over 100 unread messages flooded in. Sophia's were growing increasingly frantic. What am I supposed to do? I can't afford the mortgage. What about Amy's tuition? Our parents' messages mirrored the same desperation. We might not get the retirement home deposit back. What do we do now? I can't sleep thinking about the medical bills. But the message that stood out the most was grandfather's final declaration. Sent to the entire family, it left no room for discussion. This decision is final. Consider it the direct consequence of your own actions. Any attempts to dispute my decision will result in the termination of all remaining support. I calmly scrolled through the messages, noting how quickly their attitudes had shifted from superiority to desperation. Never had my family's true nature been more apparent. Setting my phone aside, I walked to the kitchen and made tea. By now, I would have been sitting at a lavish dinner, indulging in a Thanksgiving course that cost $200 per plate. The thought made me chuckle. Every year, my sister and her family had flaunted their extravagant holiday meals online, all while struggling to keep up with their credit card bills. A new call came in, this time from my sister's husband. His voice, a mixture of panic and frustration, carried a different tone. Unlike Sophia, he wasn't just begging, he was complaining about her spending habits. The cracks in their marriage were beginning to show. Further messages from our parents arrived, this time filled with financial panic. The retirement home won't refund the deposit. Medical insurance payments start next month. This is because of you. Yet, even in their desperation, they continued to defend Sophia as if nothing had changed. Taking a lemon from the fridge, I sliced it into my tea. Tomorrow, I would return to my normal routine, analyzing new research data at the pharmaceutical company. A $160,000 annual salary. Steadily growing investments. A stable life built by my own efforts. Outside my window, the Chicago skyline sparkled against the night. The high-rise lights resembled scattered stars, standing tall and unwavering. Suddenly, I thought of my own credit card statement. Full payment. Every month. No debt. Grandfather's words echoed in my mind. Vanity is for others. Savings are for yourself. In the city, I had carved out a life entirely on my own. And now I knew without a doubt that I had made the right choice. My phone continued buzzing with incoming calls. I ignored them. Their voices would never reach me again. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, as December began, Chicago welcomed its first snowfall. My days were consumed by new projects at the pharmaceutical lab, each one blending seamlessly into my routine. Yet while my schedule remained unchanged, my family's world had shifted dramatically. The first clues appeared on social media. My sister, who once updated her Instagram daily, had gone silent. Her last post was from the day before Thanksgiving, a snapshot of her Hermes bag at an upscale restaurant, captioned with a hashtag about living the dream. The comments praising her glamorous lifestyle now felt almost cruel. My father's emails, once distant, now carried an unfamiliar weight of regret. I've been thinking about how we lived all those years. We spoiled Sophia too much. And we were cold to you. I'm sorry. Similar messages arrived from my mother. With their medical insurance subsidies cut, they were finally facing the true burden of healthcare costs. Our pension barely covers anything. Only now do I realize how extravagantly we lived. Sophia's situation was even more dire. Her husband called me unexpectedly. I just found debts she never told me about. The credit card bills are staggering. We can't keep living like this. With our grandfather's financial support suddenly gone, their illusion of wealth collapsed overnight. We're looking at smaller homes, he admitted. Even considering public school for Amy. Sophia cries every night. Exhaustion and defeat weighed heavy in his voice. Their marriage itself seemed to be unraveling. Meanwhile, my life remained steady. I arrived at work at 8 a.m., returned home at 6 p.m., and spent weekends in investment study groups, managing my savings and living within my means. Just yesterday, I was promoted to lead a new research project. My salary would continue to rise. My investments were performing well. The future held no uncertainty for me. Vanity gives fleeting happiness, savings bring lasting security. My grandfather's words, once dismissed, now echoed through my family's struggles. While my parents worried about retirement and my sister battled debt, I simply carried on. In just 2 weeks, the flood of emails and calls had slowed. The frantic daily messages had dwindled to just 1 or 2 a week. Even their tone had changed from desperation to reluctant acceptance. Amy will transfer to public school. She'll take the bus. It was in my sister's latest email. The dream life she flaunted online was over. My parents were planning to leave their luxury Florida community for a modest condo. Their medical bills crushed any illusion of a carefree retirement. We've been living with the wrong values for years. That was the last line of my father's most recent email. But whether this realization would truly mend our fractured family remained to be seen. A week ago, my grandfather sent me a brief email. Seeing the truth can be painful, but it's a necessary pain. Your decision taught them a valuable lesson. I didn't reply. I simply saved the email. In Chicago's winter sky, new stars emerged. 3 months after Thanksgiving, the first signs of spring appeared. My life remained unchanged. If anything, it had become even more rewarding. Work at the pharmaceutical company was progressing well, and last week, I received another promotion. Now a research director, my salary would rise to $200,000. My investments continued to grow steadily. From my office, I could see Lake Michigan, its surface glimmering under the spring sun, radiating a quiet sense of hope. Stacks of research data covered my desk, each page more valuable than the last. Losing myself in work was my greatest joy. The other day, a package arrived from my grandfather. A simple pearl necklace. A card was tucked inside, written in his familiar elegant script. True brilliance belongs to those who stand on their own. I had resumed occasional contact with my parents. They had settled into their modest condo, struggling with medical bills but slowly adapting. Luxury fades quickly, my mother wrote in an email, but real security comes from a stable, grounded life. Sophia's family had moved to a typical suburban neighborhood. Amy had started public school and was getting used to the school bus. My sister's social media remained inactive. How meaningless it all was. Posting just to keep up appearances. She admitted it in a rare email. Days spent juggling credit card payments had replaced her curated online persona. Her marriage was still fragile, but at least they were facing the truth. As for me, I had new ambitions. I wanted to leave a mark in pharmaceutical research and one day lead my own team. I hoped to guide young researchers, passing on my knowledge and experience. On weekends, I attended investment and economic study groups, surrounded by people who lived wisely and with purpose. The conversations we had, honest and free from any pretenses or vanity, were truly refreshing. The events around Thanksgiving had taught us all valuable lessons. The importance of being financially independent, the hollowness of living a life full of show and pretension, and most importantly, the real meaning of family. I still carry my grandfather's final words with me. True connections are forged through hardship. In the drawer of my desk, the pearl hair clip I had planned to give Amy as a gift remains, still wrapped up beautifully. One day, when she sees its true worth, when she understands the importance of standing on her own 2 feet rather than chasing after social media approval, perhaps then will be the right moment to give it to her. Outside, the early spring winds whispered through the trees lining the street, almost as if signaling the start of a new season.